In this video, we're going to take a look at Module 66, and we're going to begin with the check your understanding problem that's at the very beginning here, and it has, as we might imagine, a few parts here, 5 parts. For each of the following practices, explain whether the practice supports the conclusion that there's tacit collusion in the industry. So this one says, for many years the price has changed very infrequently, so that's pointing to collusion. All the firms charge the same price, collusion. The largest firm publishes a catalog containing a suggested price, and changes in the price coincide with changes in the catalog. That's pretty clear. Yes, collusion. Yes, collusion. And in this case, it'd be nice if I could spell 2 L's, collusion, because we see the price leadership, right? We see price leadership going on here. B, and this is tacit, we should say. It's not a cartel, right? Tacit collusion. B, there's been a considerable variation in the market shares of firms over time. That's not evidence, no evidence. So, and that's because, right, if we would say that changes in the quantity suggest competition is happening. So if there's a great deal of changes in that amount, then we would expect there to be a fair amount of competition in that industry. C, firms in the industry build into their products unnecessary features that make it hard for switching. That's not evidence of collusion. It's them avoiding having to do it, actually. So it's a way for them to not be evidence of tacit collusion, but it's used to avoid direct competition. So it's a technique to avoid competition. So again, just because they're doing this doesn't mean, it'd be nice if we could spell, boy, that's tough. Doesn't mean that it's necessarily a good thing, but it's not evidence of tacitly colluding on quantity and price. In this case, they're actually just doing these things to avoid competing with each other so that they could keep their prices high. The end result's similar, but in the end of the day, they're still not tacitly colluding. D, firms meet yearly to discuss their annual sales. Yes, evidence. Yes, evidence, because it targets a quantity. Each firm is saying, like, hey, we're going to produce this much, you produce that much. That's tacit collusion. That might even be explicit collusion, actually, but depends on what they're doing. Firms tend to adjust their prices upward at the same time. Yes, that's evidence of that, and that occurs because moving together, right? Moving together here is a sign of them refusing to undercut. So when they move together, they refuse to undercut on price, and that's evidence of tacit collusion. Let's take a look at these multiple choice questions. Number 1, having which of the following makes it easier for them to coordinate raising prices? A large number of firms, no. Differentiated products, no. That makes it harder. Buyers with bargaining power, that makes it harder. Identical perceptions of fairness. Let me think about that for a second. That's them saying, like, what is fair? What's decent? So if both of them think that this is ethical and perfectly fine behavior, then that would lead them both down the line of saying colluding. So that one is actually making it easier. So the correct answer is D. That's a weird way to phrase that, though. Identical perceptions of fairness would be like if one of the two parties thinks it's unethical and the other thinks it is ethical to coordinate, then that would obviously make it hard. But if they both have identical perceptions of fairness or like what is decent to do, then that makes it more likely for them to do that. Which of the following led to the passage of the first antitrust laws? This one is not going to be one that's going to be appearing on the exams or anything like that, but the correct answer is actually D. The growth of the railroad industry and Standard Oil actually both kind of did that. So I'm going to put that here. Standard Oil was kind of a big monopoly in the early 20th century, but also the railroads were oligopolistic. 3, when was the first legislation against cartels passed? Again, not necessary for you to know, but it's the Sherman Antitrust Act. So we don't really need that one. We don't need that one. 4, which of the following industries has been prosecuted? Again, not important. but the lysine industry has, and so has the art auction house, and so has the electrical equipment and the bulk vitamin industry, actually. So this is all of the above. So not important for us to know for the test, but it is interesting information. They do happen. Oligopolists engage in tacit collusion in order to raise prices. Yeah. They don't usually increase output. No. They don't share profits per se. And they don't increase market share when they do it. So the answer is actually just A, just to raise prices. They're not sharing in the profits. Each one might be earning different amounts of profit, but they are all raising prices. So now the last one here, FRQ number 2. And this one is indicate whether each of the following makes it more likely that they'll behave non-cooperatively or more likely that they engage in tacit collusion. Explain your answers. A, it is difficult for a firm to detect whether another firm has raised output. So A makes it increasing non-cooperation. So in other words, they're more likely to not cooperate with each other if they can't tell, because they can't tell when the others are cheating, when others cheat. So if you can't tell when others are cheating, the others are going to cheat, right? So there's no reason to actually cooperate. B, the firms have coexisted while maintaining high prices for a long time. That makes it increasing the likelihood of them to collude. And we can say that because it establishes a pattern. Establishes kind of pattern of cooperation, we could say. Pattern of trust, even. And C is each firm expects several new firms to enter the market. So that would increase their non-cooperation behavior. Because they would be worried about more competition. So when they have more competition, they're going to be less likely to engage as a cartel. So hopefully this helps you understand some of these concepts from Module 66, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.